honest woodcutter. A woodcutter lived in a small village on the riverbank. He used to cut the trees on the riverbank every day and sell them in the village. One day, while cutting a tree, he dropped his axe in the river. The woodcutter immediately searched, but could not see the axe. He sat down on the river bank and started crying. He said, "Dear God, I dropped my axe in the water. It was my only source of livelihood. Please help me, God, please give me back my axe back." The woodcutter saw the god Mercury rising from the river. He heard the woodcutter's prayer and went back to the river to find the axe. He came back with a gold axe and asked, "Woodcutter, is this your axe?" The woodcutter refused. Mercury went back in and got a silver axe. "Is this your axe?" The woodcutter refused again. The third time, Mercury returned with an iron axe. The woodcutter took his axe happily and profusely thanked Mercury. Mercury was happy with the honesty and gave him all 3 aces. The woodcutter went home happily. Soon village heard about his good fortune story. One greedy friend of woodcutter went to the river bank the next day and hid his axe behind the tree near the river bank. As he sat on the river bank crying, God Mercury appeared. Mercury asked him why he was crying. He told Mercury that he had lost his axe. Mercury went back to the river and returned with a gold axe. The man took the axe. Mercury was upset with his dishonesty and took back the gold axe from him and scared him. He ran back to the village without taking his axe. Moral of the story: be honest. Honesty is always rewarded.
Lion and the Cows. Once upon a time, 4 cows lived in the village near the forest. They were very close friends who stayed together all day. They grazed the fields and roamed the forest together. Once the lion in the forest saw them. Since then the lion tried to hunt and eat them. When the 4 cows were grazing together, the lion attacked them. The cows together attacked the lion and chased him away. After a few days, the 4 cows quarreled among themselves and started to graze separately. The lion took advantage of this situation. When the cows were alone, the lion succeeded in hunting them down. One by one, lion killed them and ate them. Moral of the story: unity is strength.
The Monkey and the Cap Seller. Once there was a cap seller who sold beautiful caps. One hot day the cap seller was going to sell his caps in a village market. He has to cross the forest to reach the village. He was carrying a basket full of red caps on his head and going through a forest. As it was a hot day, he got tired in the heat of the sun and thought of taking rest for a while. So, he kept his basket on the ground and slept under the tree for some time. There were many monkeys on that tree. The monkeys came down one by one, took all the caps from the cap seller's basket, and then climbed on the tree. Suddenly, when the cap seller woke up, he was shocked to see his basket empty. He searched for his caps everywhere. But, to his surprise, he saw the monkeys on the tree were wearing them. The cap seller got very angry and sad. He had no idea how to get his caps back. When the cap seller made an angry face, to his surprise the monkeys also made the angry face. He laughed at them, the monkeys also laughed. He realized that the monkey was imitating him. So, he thought an idea. The cap seller took the cap and threw it on the ground. Seeing him, the monkeys did the same with their caps. The cap seller collected all the caps thrown by the monkey and put them back into his basket. He went on his way back to the village happily. Moral of the story: wisdom helps during difficult times. For every problem, there will be a solution. Lion and the Rabbit Story. Once upon a time, there lived a lion in the jungle. He was very powerful and strong. All the animals of the jungle feared him. But slowly with time he got tired of hunting. He called all the animals of the forest and passed as an order: I would stop hunting down the animals in the forest, and in return, you would send one animal a day to my den, where I would kill the animal and eat it as my food. All the animals feared the lion's anger, started to obey this order. One day it was the hare's turn to go into the lion's den. He was very sad. On his way to the lion's den, he came across an old well. He looked into it, it was very deep. As he looked, an idea struck him. The lion was very angry that no animal had come that day. The hare slowly came towards the lion. The lion roared, "Why are you late?" The hare humbly replied, "On my way, I happened to meet another lion in the jungle. He kept claiming himself to be the king of the jungle and wanted to eat me. I got away with much difficulty to give my life to you, your majesty." The lion was pleased with the hare. But the thought of another lion in the jungle made him angry. The lion roared, "Do you know where he lives?" The hare replied, "Yes, sir, please come with me." The hare took the lion to the old well. He said, "Sir, that lion lives in this well." The lion peeped into the well. He mistook his reflection for another lion. He roared and there was an echo. He thought that the other lion was roaring too and jumped into the well. That was the end of the lion. The hare succeeded in his plan and went back happily. He saved his life and also the other animals' lives as well. Moral of the story: wisdom can win mighty. Thanks for watching.
Once upon a time there was an old pig with 3 little pigs, and one day she said to them, "My children, it is time for you to go out in the world and seek your fortunes." So, bidding their mother goodbye, the 3 little pigs set out to earn their living. The first little pig, whose name was Whitey, met a man with a bundle of straw and said to him, "Please, mister, will you give me that straw to build a house with?" The man gave Whitey the straw, and he built himself a house with it. Presently a wolf came along and knocked at the door of Whitey's house. Little pig," he said. "Let me come in." But of course Whitey didn't want the wolf to come in, so he said, "No, no, by the hair on my chinny chin chin." This made the wolf angry, and he said, "Then I'll puff and I'll huff, and I'll blow your house in." So he puffed and he huffed and he blew the house in. And he carried poor little Whitey away to his home in the forest. The second little pig, whose name was Blackie, met a man carrying some wood, and he said to him, "Please, mister, will you give me that wood to build a house with?" The man gave Blackie the wood and he built himself a house with it. But along came the wolf and knocked at the door of Blackie's house. Little pig," he said. "Let me come in." "No, no," replied Blackie in great fright. "Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin. Then I'll puff and I'll huff and I'll blow your house in." So the wolf puffed and he huffed and at last he blew the house in. And away he went with Blackie to his home in the forest. Now the third little pig, whose name was Brownie, met a man with a load of bricks and he said to him, "Please, mister, will you give me those bricks to build a house with?" The man gave him the bricks, and Brownie built himself a very snug little house with them. He had just finished his house when the wolf came along. Little pig," he said. "Let me come in." "No, no, by the hair on my chinny chin chin. Then I'll puff and I'll huff and I'll blow your house in." But though the wolf puffed and he huffed, and he huffed and he puffed, he could not blow down Brownie's house made of bricks. So he said, "Little pig," I know where there is a nice field of turnips. Where? Asked Brownie. Over in Mr. Smith's field. If you will be ready tomorrow morning, I will call for you and we will go together and get some for dinner. Very well, answered Brownie. I will be ready. What time do you want to go? Around 6 o'clock, answered the wolf. Got up at 5 o'clock and went out and got the turnips and was back home before the wolf came at 6 o'clock. When the wolf found that Brownie had been to Mr. Smith's field before him, he was very angry, and wondered how he could catch him. So he said, Little pig, I know where there is a nice apple orchard. Where? Asked Brownie. Down at Merry Garden, replied the wolf. I will go with you tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock and we will get some apples. But Brownie hustled and bustled around, and went the next morning at 4 o'clock to the apple orchard. This time he had farther to go and had to climb the tree, so that just as he was getting down with the apples in a basket, he saw the wolf coming. Of course he was frightened. When the wolf came up to the tree, he said to Brownie, Ah, I see you are here before me. Are they very nice apples? Yes, indeed, replied Brownie. Here, I will throw one down to you. And he threw the apple so far that while the wolf was running to pick it up, the little pig jumped down from the tree and ran home. Now the wolf was very, very angry, and he thought and finally thought of a plan to catch the little pig. Coming to his house the next morning, he said, Little pig, there is a fair in town this afternoon. Will you go? Oh, yes, replied Brownie. I will be very glad to go. What time will you want me to be ready? At 3 o'clock, said the wolf. But Brownie went off to the fair at 1 o'clock and bought a great big copper kettle. Alas! On the way home with the kettle, he saw the wolf coming up the hill. Poor little Brownie! He didn't know what to do. And then suddenly he jumped into the copper kettle and gave himself a push. And the kettle went rolling over and over, with the little pig in it. When the wolf saw the kettle coming rolling toward him, he was so frightened that he turned and ran back home without going to the fair. The next day he stopped at the little pig's house and told him how frightened he had been by a great, shining thing that had rolled down the hill toward him. Then Brownie laughed, and said to the wolf, Ha! I frightened you, Mr. Wolf. I had been to the fair and bought a copper kettle, and when I saw you coming I got into it and rolled down the hill. This made the wolf so very angry that he jumped up onto the roof of the little pig's house and started to climb down the chimney. When Brownie saw this he made a blazing fire in the fireplace and hung the copper kettle over it full of scalding water. And just as the wolf came down the chimney, the little pig pulled off the cover of the kettle and plop! Into the scalding water fell the wolf. So Brownie boiled the wolf, and then went out and rescued his two brothers, Whitey and Blackie, from the forest where the wolf had been keeping them. And they all lived happily together in the little brick house forever afterwards.
Subscribe the channel. There was a dog that was very hungry. He searched for food everywhere and at last he found a bone. He picked the bone with his mouth and started going back to his home. There was a bridge on the way to his home. When he started crossing it he saw his reflection in the water. The dog thought that there was another dog with a bone in water. He wanted to get that other bone too. So he started barking at his own reflection. His bone fell in water as soon as he opened his mouth. The greedy dog lost his bone. Thanks for watching.